Everywhere he went, David had always been the type of man who made people laugh. His casual demeanor, love of practical jokes, and capacity to make any mundane situation enjoyable were what made him so endearing. From the day Sarah met him, it was his light-hearted nature that made her fall in love with him. Even after 5 years of marriage, she admired his ability to turn the simplest things into moments of joy. But sometimes she wished he'd understand that life wasn't always a joke. For Sarah, the last week had been lengthy and draining. Deadlines were choking her from the mountain of unfinished business. She had been struggling with family matters as well, which consumed a lot of her thoughts. Since her mother's recent illness, she had been spending all of her energy on phone calls, hospital visits, and unending concern. Her mind had been constantly racing over how to balance everything at once for the past several nights, since she had hardly slept. It seemed as though she was falling farther and farther, and that nobody could save her. That evening, as Sarah stood in the kitchen preparing dinner, she was struggling to keep her composure. Her thoughts were elsewhere, focused on her mother's illness and the impending workload at work. It was as though the aroma of the dish boiling on the stove belonged to someone else. Though she wanted to cry, she refrained. She had discovered how to be tough, persevere, and swallow her emotions. David, ignorant of the turmoil gathering inside her, arrived home from work with a playful smile. He planned a prank. He had always enjoyed bringing crazy pranks to surprise Sarah. She laughed most of the time. However, she hadn't laughed the whole day today. This, he decided, would be the ideal method to cheer her up. He saw that the home was silent and that Sarah appeared to be lost in her own world. It seemed to him like the ideal setting for a small fright. He moved silently in the direction of the kitchen, ducking behind the doorframe like a kid preparing for a fun surprise attack. His eyes gleamed with expectation, and his pulse raced with excitement. He was certain that she would leap, shout, and laugh, as she usually did. It was how they always did things. Lost in concentration, Sarah leaned over the oven to inspect the food when David, peeking out from behind the door, sprung out and shouted, "Boo!" For a brief while, time appeared to stop. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as her heart halted. With a yell, she let go of the hot pan she was holding. With a loud smash, it clattered on the floor, sending reverberations throughout the room. However, something inside of Sarah also snapped. It wasn't only the pan that broke. Her hands shook, her pulse pounding wildly as a wave of terror swept over her. Her face turned pale with panic as tears filled her eyes, and she was left with nothing to do but gaze at David for a while. The shock was too much to handle. It was too much for her body, which was already strained from the tension she had been bearing. She pulled away from him, her hands clenched in her chest, as if she was attempting to contain her beating heart. As soon as David noticed her response, his smile disappeared. What he saw in her eyes was absolute dread, not the laughing and a rapid scream he had expected. Her gaze on him was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her face lost its color, she gasped sharply and shallowly, and tears started to run down her cheeks. "Sarah?" His voice was soft now, the playful tone gone. "Babe, I didn't mean to." David froze, feeling sad. He was at a loss for words. He reasoned that it was merely a joke. It's only a small joke. It was much more than that, though, for Sarah. She fell into a chair, her body still shaking, tears streaming down her face. Her voice broke under the weight of all the feelings she had been suppressing for days. "You don't understand, David. You have no idea how I felt about today. I've been making an effort to maintain composure and show strength, but I'm exhausted. I just feel like everything is crumbling around me, and then you do this." Her statements broke David's heart. How could he have missed how frail she was? He had been so blind, so engrossed in his own fun. It was evident in her eyes that she was tired, and that her shoulders were hunched over from carrying so much. Her emotional exhaustion was more evident than her physical exhaustion, which he had just exacerbated. He spoke barely a whisper. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." Taking her shaky hands in his, he knelt before her. "I was unaware. I didn't give it much thought. All I wanted to do was make you laugh." He was momentarily uncertain about her forgiveness as she gazed at him with tearful eyes. Her voice was raw with emotion as she murmured gently, "I don't need to laugh right now, David. I just need you to be there for me. I need you to understand that I can't handle surprises and jokes when I'm already falling apart inside. I need you to be my calm, not my chaos." David's chest clenched with remorse. He had always enjoyed being the one to make her laugh and brighten her spirits with his foolish antics, but he hadn't realized that sometimes love meant more than just fun and games. Sometimes love meant being her anchor when she felt like she was drowning. "I'm sorry, Sarah," he said, his voice heavy with remorse. "I'll do better. I promise I'll be more careful. I never want to terrify you in this way again. I would never want to hurt you." Sarah nodded, her tears easing, but her heart remained heavy. She leaned toward him, allowing him to embrace her, while she silently sobbed against his chest. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to be vulnerable, and David embraced her with a love that was protective, understanding, and compassionate. As they sat there, the only sounds in the room were her quiet tears and his apologetic whispers. David realized that everything had to change from this point forward. He had to be more than just the man who made her laugh. He had to be the man who knew when she needed comfort, calm, or simply to be silent and present. Life can be unpredictable and stressful, and in a relationship, it's essential to understand the emotional needs of your partner. While playfulness and fun are beautiful aspects of love, they cannot replace sensitivity, empathy, and support. Sometimes your partner may not need laughter or surprises. They may simply need peace, understanding, and someone to lean on when the weight of the world becomes too much to bear. During difficult times, your loved one can be waging invisible battles in silence. What might appear like harmless fun to you can be the tipping point that breaks their fragile emotional state. Love isn't just about the light moments. It's also about recognizing when your partner is in darkness and being there calm amidst the storm. True love means being in tune with the emotional rhythms of your partner's life. It means knowing when to step back from the jokes and instead offer a shoulder to cry on. It means understanding that while laughter is important, so is quiet comfort. And sometimes what your partner needs most is for you to be their safe haven, their rock, and their peace.